Well, hello, everybody. All right, it looks like we are live. Good evening, everybody. This is Chief Meteorologist Andrew Pineiro, and boy, do we have some things to discuss. All right, let me get things set up here. Hope everybody is doing well. Been a little while. Some things happened in the middle. I think Christmas happened. I think the New Year happened. Ooh, things are... All right, so no gaming part tonight. We have too much to discuss. And I'm trying to find the first thing I want to discuss, which was actually the earthquake. Not the Japanese earthquake, the New York City earthquake. But Delvin, I see you there. How are you doing? I am noticing just ever so slightly the sun is setting just a few minutes later now, which is good. For anybody that is familiar with the New York City area, I've brought this up now. Hopefully it doesn't play any video. Okay. Here. All right, so first thing up. John, hello. Thank you for joining. All right, so let me bring this over. First up here, we have 1.7 magnitude earthquake jolts residents awake in Roosevelt Island, Queens. So this is quite interesting because 1.7 magnitude. I don't remember exactly the number, but that is too small or too low intensity for humans to really detect. I think it was a 2.5 or higher. That is what is perceivable by humans. Cats and dogs may be a different case, but at least by humans, we were not able to feel that. I know I definitely didn't feel it. Anybody around the New York City area, John, I don't think you would have felt it there. Delvin or Raymond, if you join, I don't think you would have felt it either up near Albany. But even in that area, they had no idea. The crazy part with this is it caused, I believe, some gas ruptures. So here's a seismic event in New York City, 2001 to 2024. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's only been 8 seismic events, earthquakes, in New York City since 2001, which is kind of crazy. But it makes sense because we're not really on a fault line. There is something there, as I was learning today by listening to one of the geologists, but it's not a true fault line like California. California's got like a true fault line for earthquakes. So buildings in New York City aren't built to withstand the same thing with earthquakes as they would be, say, in California. So this whole scenario was quite interesting to learn about. I didn't even know about it. One of the last reported was May of 2023. A 2.2 magnitude earthquake shook parts of Westchester County and New Jersey. So that was getting a little bit closer to what you can perceive. But a lot of the people from the report, what they were saying was they didn't feel anything. It was like an explosion, sounded like a bomb went off, the building shook, it woke us up. This resident said. So what's happening there is basically an earthquake. Get back to here. There we go. So basically an earthquake is just sound waves that are emanating from inside the earth underground. The area here in the tri-state region, the rock is very solid. So this solid rock transmits that energy very efficiently. So even though it was about 6 kilometers or 5 kilometers, 6 miles, something like that, below the surface, which usually earthquakes come a little bit deeper than that, it is only going to be felt because we have some pretty solid rock in this area. And again, it wasn't felt, it was heard. As that person said, it was like an explosion, sounded like a bomb went off. So that sound wave coming up through that solid rock, once it hits the air, the earth is basically acting like a speaker. And it's becoming sound waves that we would hear. We don't feel it because at the frequency, it's I forgot what it was called. It's the brown note. It's the below human hearing frequency. So you really don't perceive it. But you can kind of feel and hear a little bit in your ears, but not really feel that earthquake itself. So you're not really going to hear it too much, except these jolts, as people were saying. So it's like a sound wave, kind of interesting. All right. So that was the interesting news of the day. But then the interesting news going forward, we have a couple of things to talk about. So let me pull this up here. Because for right now, it's all quiet on the western front. Boston has a lot of landfills, so that's not good for earthquakes. Plus, the land is low-lying and vulnerable to floods. Yes, which is pretty much the same thing for New York City, which is sitting, just like Boston, right on the waterline. The drink of choice for tonight is just a simple Sunkist Zero orange soda. All right. So, what's happening right now? Really nothing. As of this recording where I am, it's 33 degrees. And the highs for today were all around the upper 30s and low 40s. So, not too warm, but also, it was a pretty calm day weather-wise. And it seems like that's going to be the case for a little while. In terms of watches, warnings, and advisories, there's really nothing much. Some gale warnings once you get out into the ocean. And I think the same thing once you get up near here, Sullivan County. But that's about it. There's nothing else happening because it's going to be fairly calm for the work week, not necessarily the whole week. Storm Prediction Center also has nothing there, for our area at least. Drought monitor, most of the area. We're caught up again, except still a few little spots around there. And tropics, nothing happening. Again, fairly calm. When we take a look at the radar here, for the Northeast, it is very calm for now. What we're going to start to pay attention to, not this, right here. So you would think, oh, this one in Texas, that's what's coming up. No. It is coming up, but it's not going to be the one giving us the potential for a snowstorm. This one's going to kind of just scoot right south of us. This is where, say, Friday, there could be some flurries here and there. That's about it. Once we get into the forecast models, we'll discuss that a little bit more, but flurries here and there, that's really about it. A snowflake. But the one out in California, typically, and this is something I remember, one of the main things from my meteorology classes, that usually it takes about 3 days for weather to go from west coast to east coast. So if this is coming straight or due east, we would expect this today's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. However, it looks like, and we'll see that on the forecast models, this is going to dip south towards Texas, hit the Gulf of Mexico, And this is what's going to intensify it. The Gulf of Mexico is very warm water. And I know a lot of meteorologists I was talking, or not really talking to, but following, they were actually sent out to the Gulf of Mexico. And some of the water last year, even just a few months ago, last year, was 101 degrees. There was a whole climate change video that I forgot who was that. It was one of the ABC7 meteorologists. She was basically diving and saw the coral. The coral was bleached white, meaning it was dead, because the water was too warm. It was 101 degrees. Bath water is what she said, essentially. So because that's so warm right there, when that system dips south into the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to pull some of that energy, and it's going to intensify as then it turns back up the East Coast. Now, the biggest question is where the low pressure will land. So in this area, we have in the Atlantic here, there's a high pressure system, and high pressure systems in the northern hemisphere spin clockwise. So on the western side of this high pressure, we have winds coming up from the south. So that's where the ocean currents kind of follow this, where we're going to have the Gulf Stream following the coastline from the south to the north. And that's kind of the path that it looks like this system will be taking. Now, the big question that you may think of is, are we going to get rain or we get snow? And that's a little bit up for debate still. There is a concept in meteorology called the 70-40 benchmark. 70 degrees west, 40 degrees north. That kind of lands you somewhere, I believe, right about there into the Atlantic. If the low pressure center hits there, that means when you have the counterclockwise rotation coming from the northeast, a nor'easter, or just due north, it's bringing in cold air. So that means on the backside of the low pressure system with all that moisture, it's most definitely going to be snow. If the low pressure system comes right up the coast, yes, it'll be more intense, the rain, but it'll be bringing up warm air with it. So when it's spinning around here, you'll get snow maybe going out into Pennsylvania and then going into a bit more upstate New York, not necessarily the New York City area. So specifically for the New York City area, we have to look at that 70-40 benchmark. When we head into the forecast models, remember that. One other thing I thought was quite interesting, and you can kind of see a little bit of the way the atmosphere is set up right now. There is a low pressure center there moving east out of the way. There is that next one that might come in and bring some flurries, nothing big. That's all related to this system. And in the middle, nothing. It's just pretty calm right now. And this is what's going to be our weather forecast for the next couple of days. So good for that until the weekend. All right. So that low pressure center here looks like it was a 10,004 millibar. So not strong. This high pressure, though, 1026 millibar high, was pretty strong there. Okay. Now let's dig into the forecast models. Big thing everybody wants to hear about. Here on the good old Tropical Tidbits, the GFS, we are going to skim through here. See? Nothing much happening. Here's a little bit more upstate. Again, this was Thursday afternoon, maybe going into Friday. Some little flurries here and there. Nothing too much. So watch here. We go frame by frame. There's that system that we talked about from California. This is going to come in. It's going to hit the Gulf of Mexico there. It starts feeding off of the warm water. And it intensifies. That is a pretty strong a band right there, some heavy rain. And then this feeds in on itself because it kind of looks like the low pressure center is right there. So it's feeding this whole system. And that where we have our question mark for the storm. It looks like it's going to come here. It looks like there's no question right now that we're going to get a storm. Excuse me. So Sunday, 0Z. So this would be 7 p.m. Saturday. This is 1 p.m. Saturday. Just barely starting in central Jersey, southern Jersey. Then by 7 p.m. Saturday, it's pretty much there. And that's going to be the question mark there, where we see the freezing line. So here, you look at that. The GFS, and this is the 18Z run. There we go. Of the GFS from today. That's near the 70-40 benchmark. Let me get up to there. So there's 40 and 70. So right there, specifically, that's the 70-40 benchmark. That point right there. So this low pressure center is very close to it. That's where this moisture could be cold enough for snow because it's on the backside of that low pressure center. And again, this is just the first model we're looking at with the GFS. And it lingers a little bit afterwards, too. But then after that, we're not even going to talk about this one just yet. Just focusing on this. So the timing for this from the GFS is central, southern Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delmarva area. Yeah, it's going to start into the middle of the day Saturday. New York City area, it doesn't really start till after sunset. And then going into the Boston area, it's not really there until about 1 a.m. Going up, so near Albany there, not as intense in this particular forecast model. All right, so that's the GFS. Now, let's take a look at the icon. And yes, I do know I don't have the 180-hour model out, but this one's a more updated run, the 18Z, so I do want to check this. And that's what we're going to reference now. So it's kind of showing the same thing, pretty calm. There's our little flurry chance here and there. Thursday, Friday, then high pressure comes in, looks fine. And then here comes our next system. So there's that path that's kind of coming. It's going from California down through Texas, hits the Gulf of Mexico, intensifies, pulls all that moisture up, and really intensifies there. Hits the cold air, looks like, once it really gets into Virginia and West Virginia. And there, the icon is a bit more south. So we're at 3874, not 40 and 70, or 70-40, I don't know what the term is. So because that's a bit more south, it also might give you kind of the same effect as being a little bit further out, as long as it's around that radius. I see. We're doing some sort of track repair this weekend. Well, I hope to do it early enough, and they're not doing track repair mid-storm. So it looks like it's not as intense, although right there at that time, and that's 6Z, so that's 1 a.m. Sunday. Decently intense there. No. So this is a 3-hour average precipitation rate. So right there in that darker blue, that's showing about 2 inches of snow in 3 hours. Not the most intense we've seen, but it's definitely gonna accumulate according to this. All right. So now, oh, did I move my Yeah, I did. Hang on. Duplicate. Bring that back up. We're not going to go into snow totals just yet. Do that. Stick with the surface precipitation. Precipitation type and rate. Okay. So on here, now we're on the good old pivotal weather. Let's see what happens. All right, so there's that little system that scoots south because of that high. Here comes the next storm. So it goes from California, southern states, hits the Gulf of Mexico, starts to intensify, brings that up. Now that, also, look at that. There's 40. There's 40. That's very close to 70-40. And because of that, it looks like you're getting a little bit more intense precipitation and colder for some of the snow. That freezing rain line looks like it's right on top of New York City there. But it's a quick mover. So this starts to come in. It looks like between, where's my frames? There's the frames. 18Z. It's a little bit slower, it looks like, the Euro. So 18Z Saturday, so that's 1 p.m. Remember before I was saying central and southern Jersey, we're starting to see it? Here, it's not there yet. And this is precipitation type and rate in hour. So per hour here. That's what I mean, hour to the -1, so per hour, inches per hour. An interesting way to write it. So inches per hour right there. Not that intense yet, but right here, go down to the scale. So that darker blue, that's getting up to 1/10 of an inch of snow an hour. Kind of tracks what it seems like from the last model. But again, it looks like it's fairly close in terms of the track. And it makes its way out. Cool. 3 kilometer NAM. On the 3 first. Go to the 12. Again, we're not going to see too much here. This only goes out 60 hours for the 3 kilometer. 84 for the... for the 12 kilometer, but let's just take a peek at what's happening to see if it's following something similar to the other forecast models. So that high is staying there. That keeps everything pretty much at bay. Some flurries come in Thursday. Okay. About the same. Clears out. So then Friday. Oh, it's just coming into frame there. Let's make this a little wider. And there's our system there. We go from California, following it south through the states, the southern states through Texas. There we go. Kind of births a new low pressure, pulls that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, and that's the end of the model. But so far, it's following the same forecast track. It just doesn't go out as far. And then the last one we're going to look at here before we switch to the snow totals potential. This is going to be at 3 kilometer NAM again. I don't know where it went to. Oh, that's where I had the 12. Icon 12, 3. There we go. Rewind that. There it comes, going south. No, it's not far enough yet. But at least from that, it was following kind of the same path, that arc. Just didn't have enough time to hit the Gulf of Mexico. Now, this is kind of an interesting blocking pattern that's setting up too. The low pressure, and then in the center is a high. This is called an omega block. The high pressure, northern hemisphere, clockwise rotation. Low pressure, counterclockwise rotation. Low pressure, counterclockwise rotation. There's another high there. So if we go from this left side high, so counterclockwise around up, it hits the high, goes over the top of the high, clockwise, coming down, and then goes again counterclockwise around here. So that shape is the Greek letter omega, or the god of war symbol. That creates a bit of a stationary pattern, which is why that high pressure was sitting in place for a few days, giving us some calm weather. All right. Now we're going to start looking at some of the predicted snow totals. This is where usually the most attention comes from. All right. Oh, H-triple. Meter temperatures. This will be interesting. Let me just take a peek at this. I stacked the show this way for a specific reason. So the temperatures stay fairly steady until after the low pressure system moves through. So that's going into next Wednesday, so we're not even going to look at that yet. But you see so I'm going to just move this slowly forward. You see like these pulses going from left to right in the ocean? That's the subtropical high. But the air at least looks cold enough to support snow. All right. Now to the good stuff. So we are on the GFS 18Z positive snow depth change in inches. Nothing right now because we haven't had any snow yet. So let's drag this through and, oh, there we go. Boom. So there is the forecast map from the GFS for the Northeast. And it's very, very position dependent, especially once you get near the coast. So if you look at that scale, there is, New York City doesn't have a number right over it, but once you get into the little bit north in the Hudson Valley, there's not really any in Jersey. There's a 4 right there, 3 into Connecticut, and then a 4 in the northwest corners of Jersey. And on the scale here, so 4 starts right there. So this is kind of in the 4 to 6 inch range. Up here, there's a couple of pockets higher than 6. So when I was watching the weather on the news at 5 o'clock, they were showing the GFS was outputting, I think a little bit more, about 6.9 inches for Central Park. So it looks like it's come down a little bit. The Euro outputted only about 1.7 for Central Park. But still, I think it's going to be somewhere around there. So it's kind of falling, what looks like, into be that 2 to 4 inch range for northern New Jersey, southeastern New York, and eastern Pennsylvania, all the way going down through Virginia, West Virginia there. So that's the GFS. Euro. Let's thumb through this. And I didn't get the Pivotal Weather Plus subscription. I might get that, because then I can go to a tighter map view. Go. The Euro. So just kind of looking right between the blue and the pink there. Then on the scale between blue and pink, that is 6. So this is showing. I get my mouse right around New York City there. So it's showing 1 inch, but you go into northwest New Jersey, Sussex County, 7 inches. Rockland County, 7 inches. Westchester County, 5 inches. Orange County, 9 inches. So that's quite a bit of snow, and that's where the exact position of that low pressure center. If it's near that 70-40, there we go, 70-40, right about there. That's kind of what we saw before, and that's what looks like it's giving those higher snow totals of 6-7 inches in Sussex County. Oh, I saw an 8 there. So that is Rockland County, 8, 7, 9 inches again, Orange County, once you're getting a bit more north there. 10 inches up, starting to approach Albany there. So that's where the heart of the snow looks like it'll be. And going back down to West Virginia and Virginia here, still looks like 7-8 inches of snow. Now, the slight difference here, and again, this is what you would get with the Pivotal Weather Plus, total snow depth change versus total snowfall 10-to-1 ratio. So here, this is assuming this exact 10-to-1 ratio. So a little weather lesson right now. There we go. So snow ratios. They're a ratio of liquid equivalent to frozen equivalent. So when you take a cup of water and you put it in the freezer, a full cup of water, and let it freeze, the ice expands out the top of the cup. When you let it melt, it shrinks back down again. Now, the reason for that is because of the shape of water. Based on the movie. No, it's actually the shape of water when it's liquid versus frozen. When it's liquid, you have the oxygen and 2 little hydrogens on either side. They float around. Now, when you take that, I wish I had something to draw, but you take that, so you have 2 points, 2 little points, and then a big mass in the middle. When you turn that outside, those points become a snowflake shape. That little pointy part of the snowflake is actually a lot of the shape of H2O, the molecule itself. So when it freezes, it actually expands out, and those hydrogen molecules at the end of the water molecule, those hydrogen atoms at the end of the water molecule, use my words correctly there, they interlock with the oxygen and hydrogen of another water molecule, and it creates the shape of a snowflake. So it expands. That's why it looks frosty in the freezer sometimes, and that's actually the shape of snow. So that is why we have an expansion ratio. Now here, scientifically, the standard expansion ratio is 1 inch of water, liquid water specifically, will become 10 inches of snow. Now that ratio changes based on temperature. The colder it is, the drier essentially the snow feels, the fluffier, powderier it becomes. So it's that fluffiness makes the expansion bigger. So that's where you can have a 1 inch of water equals 15 inches of snow or 20 inches of snow. Or it could be the opposite. If that snowstorm is right on the freezing point or above freezing, yes, it can snow when the temperature is above freezing. That means the ratio might be 1 inch of rain, 1 inch of liquid water to 8 inches of snow. So that is where this ratio comes from. And that ratio here is fixed at 10-to-1. Now, on the other forecast model, so on Tropical Tidbits here, where did I go? Total positive snow depth change. So this has a fluctuating snow ratio. That would be here. Total positive snow depth. There's not a fixed ratio, it would be fluctuating. So here it might, for this storm, I think it's actually going to be the 10-to-1 ratio, so Going to be fairly accurate. But again, this is all position based. All right, and then the icon. Oh, I spoiled the reveal there. Let me rewind there. Okay. Icon. Woo! We got a 7-inch in Rockland County. We got some more 6, 7 inches in northern New Jersey there. But see how because it's a higher resolution model, I believe. Not as high as the NAMs, but here we see a little bit more detail between these two. So that's where we could be seeing 6 inches of snow, maybe 7 inches of snow there. All right. So to wrap this up, so that's really all I wanted to discuss right now was just the snow itself. Nothing really in terms of the rest of the forecast. So to wrap this up, the storm is coming. Let me go back here. Let me show you with just the good old GFS. So all of them show this storm in the same vicinity. Not the exact same track. There's some minor variance, but that minor variance, it could be a 50-mile difference, and that happened last time, or not last time, but a while ago, where we were forecasting, I think it was like a foot, 12 to 18 inches of snow, and it ended up being maybe a couple inches because the track moved a little bit 50 miles east of what we were forecasting. That means more rain, or that means more, they must have moved west because it was warmer. Last December in Boston finished much warmer than average. Midwest had very high temp anomalies for December. Yeah, it's weather's going a little crazy right now, a little cray-cray. All right, so it looks like it's coming. That's the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway from here. All right. So it's coming, the storm. So I would say start preparing. And I forgot to grab this, and I will in a second. Okay, I'm back. For things like this, a weather radio. Weather radio is really what you want to have. It doesn't have to be like this is a ham radio. It doesn't have to be that specifically, just something that's a weather radio. When I pop this on, and let me get to the channel I have set up for there.
22 and the relative humidity 46%. The pressure was 30.03 inches.
So this is receiving a signal regardless of your Wi-Fi or your internet or the cell network. This is just being broadcast from the Upton National Weather Service office in Long Island. So I'm receiving a signal with this from Long Island. And I am northwest of New York City. So this is something I really believe everybody should have, and that's why the company that I bought this from, Better Safe Radio, I started an affiliation with them. So let me get the link. I forgot to put it in the description. Let me see if I get it real quick for everybody. And I'll put that in the comments. Is my account. A little touch ID on in. One second there. Here we go. Okay. There is my affiliate link to Better Safe Radio. I will update this in the description for the video after. I'm going to post about this too. But on there, I'll show you real quick. Let me just get to the main page. Go. Cool. All right, so this is the page Better Safe Radio, bettersaferadio.com. When the SHTF, I could say this once. When the shit hits the fan, SHTF is the phrase now. Better safe radio than sorry. So the whole idea with this gentleman, he is a licensed ham radio operator and a GMRS radio operator. I don't have my ham license yet. I have my GMRS radio license. So this radio is ham. I do have another one that is also GMRS. But on here, these are all about what's your communication plan in an emergency. So during this snowstorm, if power goes out and it knocks down your internet, what are you going to do? You might have cell service, but what if it knocks down the cell service too? You have no internet to your house, you have no cell service. Then what do you do? That's where a radio really comes in. So I'm in this year, one of my goals for this year with radio is to set up a radio communication between a couple different family member locations, and so that we can stay in communication with each other in the event of emergency like this. So I'm working on that. So this gentleman, his name's Mark. So if you ever are interested in a radio, a lot of these, there are some expensive radios, but there are also some fairly cheap radios, not cheap, but inexpensive, I should say, that you can tune and actually come pre-programmed. He does all the programming for these radios himself that come pre-programmed with a lot of these frequencies. And one of them are the weather bands, the weather radio bands, and there's multiple. So they're all programmed, and you just kind of tune through it and find the one that is broadcasting that you can pick up. All right, Delvin, I see you there. Just switch back here. Cool. All right, Delvin. Thoughts on if the MBTA would need to reschedule their track repairs and subway shut down due to the snowstorm? Depends on when they were scheduled to do it. During the day, especially for Boston, during the day on Saturday, totally fine. I don't know if they're going to plan on doing it during the day, but once that sun sets, so this storm's really going to be, it looks like an overnight storm. If they're planning on doing track repair in the lower peak hours, I guess you could say, 2 a.m., it was all day Saturday and Sunday for this weekend. Sunday may be postponed. Saturday during the day, I think will be fine. So if they can get some major track repairs done during the day on Saturday, then I would say, yeah, that's fine. But overnight Saturday into Sunday, maybe not. All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this first snowstorm and snow discussion of the season. It was fun to talk about. It was also fun really having the radio affiliation. So again, in the description, I'm going to put my link, my affiliate link. I'm in discussions with him about like what things we can offer. So we'll see about that. If I do any reviews on these radios. It's unusual for them to be doing major repairs during the winter. They're on a repair spree for all of 2024. Well, it sounds like they have good intentions behind it. It's just maybe not this weekend would be the best. Especially as we head into January and February, which climatologically is are the snowiest months of the whole season. All right, Delvin, thank you for joining. John, if you're still there, thank you for chiming on in and watching for a little bit. For anybody else that's brand new to the channel, stay up to date with me. Hit that subscribe button below and then the little bell icon right next to that so you get notified whenever I go live like this or I upload videos. And I'm going to definitely be getting regular with the video updates for this storm. Lots of tracks are in disrepair. Yeah, I figured kind of like New York City and New Jersey, the transit system is not the best. Whereas across the whole MTBA system, yeah, it sounds also like New York City. So I guess the major cities they all need some help. All right, well, have a great rest of your night. This is actually my first video in general of the year, so Happy New Year, everybody. This is one of the first of a few I would plan, not necessarily live streams, but videos for this week, because this snowstorm, it could be a doozy for our first one. If you call 6 inches a doozy, but if you're not prepared, you should get prepared. Again, with a weather radio and just have an emergency plan for like a couple days worth of food and water and the medicines you have, anything like that. So I would say right now, for the next couple days, because the weather is very calm the next couple days, it's a good time to prepare. All right, again, Happy New Year, everybody. Have a great rest of your night. This is Chief Meteorologist Andrew Pineiro. Stay safe, and I'll see you all in that next video.